Hey team, welcome back into the Warriorholic for our very last review preview session of the season. Man, it's gone bloody quickly. I was really looking forward to the bye next week. Give the boys a rest before we hit the finals, but shit, that never happened. This time last year, we were charging, getting excited about buying tickets for the grand final, thinking we might actually get there. Shit, but not this year. I'm not going to spend too much time going into the game from the weekend. What more can you say? Absolute incompetency from the refs yet again. That blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind how often they get things like that wrong. A complete reflection on our season where we've been nailed by in-game injuries. How many times have we lost two outside backs in a single game? I think it's three or is it four times this season. So many injuries to outside backs this year in the game. And it's bloody hard to win against a team as clinical as the Bulldogs in the way they're playing at the moment when you don't have two outside backs. Wonder what happens if Crichton gets 10 in the bin. We'll never know. But shit happens. So pretty gutted that the boys, SJ, Jazz, and AFB didn't get to go out on a high in front of the faithful. But just another part of the season that's disappointing, and it'll be even more disappointing for them. So on to this week. It's pretty ironic. It's pretty ironic. We finished where we started against the Sharks. I was there for that very first game. We were so amped. I genuinely thought we were going to smoke them after what we did to them in 2023, but it kind of basically kicked off what ended up being the story of our season. The boys starting out with a hiss and a roar, getting in behind, and just could never catch up, chasing games, key injuries within the game again. So, God. This week, interesting lineups here. I'll quickly run through them and then talk about a couple of the key points. At fullback, we have Will Kennedy up against Tain Tuolpiki, Katoa up against Dallin, Sifa Talakai up against Chance Nickel Clogston. We'll get onto him in a moment. Edo up against Leatoa, Stone Street up against Montoya, Atkinson up against Metcalf, Trindle up against Johnson, and into the forwards, Rudolph against AFB. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Brayley up against Egan, Kofusi up against Barnett, Nikora against Niokore. I always love that matchup for the commentators to have to call. Wilton against Capewell, McInnes against Walker, and on the bench they've got Wilson, Hunt, Hamlin, Uele, and Hazleton. We've got Lasik, Ale, Jazz, and Sifakula. On the extended bench for us, CHT, Halasima, Kossi, Roach, and Laban. Wonder if we'll see any late changes there. I don't expect so. I think Webby's going to want to go out of this one on a high, so I think we go hard at it. Be nothing better than to actually flip this one round and get one up over them when they'll be expecting to walk over us. So, key points for me. Obviously, the injuries to the backline forcing that change that we've been asking for all season. CNK into the centres. I'm really excited to see how this goes. And I'm also really curious to see how Tane goes at the back up against a real quality team, but with a solid lineup around him. Been having a few debates recently with a couple of mates about whether Tane doesn't quite have the speed for a guy his size. I don't know. I think he's reasonably quick off the line. I'm not too sure about the top speed, but I really do think he can create. He's probably got more individual X factor than most of the other guys there. So I'm really curious to see him up against a guy like Kennedy, who I never really rated that highly until this season. He's really started to show his class. Damn, he's got some wheels on him. He ran down Hammer, or did he run away from Hammer? I think he ran him down. So he's got a bit of speed to him. And yeah, so Chance, I'm really curious to see him in there. If he does mark up against Talakai, that's a very good challenge for him. Probably not going to give us a true reflection on him having to deal with a really fleet-footed centre. Talakai not the fastest, but he'll certainly be a handful to tackle. What I'm curious to see of most is just how CNK can slot into the defensive role there. I'm curious to see how he can distribute, because honestly, I feel like Gartier should be at the back next season as our first choice fullback. And if Chance can make a go of the centre, him and Rocco Berry would be my first choices there. Not really any other key points of interest. I feel like, it's basically the same lineup we've seen for the past couple of weeks, but guys like Jazz moving back to the bench and Marata starting on an edge. Does Chanel stay on the extended bench this time, or does he come into the lineup? I don't feel like he will. I wouldn't mind seeing Leka perhaps come in instead of Tom Ale, or even Jacob Laban. I wouldn't mind seeing Roach coming into that role instead of Freddie, but we know that's not going to happen. I think Freddie's really deserved his spot, but I just feel like I want to see a little bit more of Roach. Still don't know what his status is for next year. If anyone has heard anything, let me know. From the Sharks, they're pretty much at full strength really without Nico Hines. So there'll be a bloody handful. And their forwards really stepped up last week by the sounds of it. I didn't see the game, but I heard them talking about it on SEN. Kennedy, always a handful. It's probably an advantage to us not having Mulatalo out there. Don't know too much about this guy, Stone Street. Let's have a quick look at his profile. 4 games this season, 6 tries. Averaging 130 metres, 5 line breaks. So that's not a bad 5 line breaks in 4 games. So must be something about him we're going to have to worry about. I do like Ito. I'm thinking about Ito going back about 18 months. I thought he could have been an interesting guy for the Warriors to go after, but they never did. He's a class player. I think he's in there for the long term now. It's really interesting to see what these Sharks do. They've got Rudolph, Kaufusi, Hunt, Hemulele, and Hazelton. And then they're getting AFB on top of that. It's a pretty prop-heavy roster. You'd have to think they might let 1 or 2 of those guys go. Don't know whether the Warriors are still in the market for one or not. But you would have thought if we were going to get one of their props, we would have done it when we let AFB go. A few rumours going around this week about Leo Thompson potentially wanting to test the market, not really having the faith in the Knights at the moment with so many of their senior players being let go. Rumour mill starting to grind that perhaps he may be a target for us, which I'd really love if we did do that. The Dylan Brown rumour still continues to grind away in the background there. Sean Stevenson showed some bloody good footwork and some speed in the weekend there. I saw a couple of his highlights pop up on Insta. But still, his age is a bit of a concern. Could he make the transition quick enough to really have an impact? Oh man, so many different players being extended by their clubs or being tapped on the shoulder at the moment. But we're one of these clubs that doesn't seem to be having much going on. One thing is, I guess we don't really tend to leak when we're about to make a big signing. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos I put up here on YouTube or on my Insta channel. Keen to get your thoughts on the player ratings for this year. I'm really keen to get your guys' player ratings for each of the players, and I'm going to correlate them. I've posted the similar post across all my platforms, 1 to 10, 1 being shit, 10 being the best. How you thought each of the 31 players who played for our team this year versus your expectation. And I'm only talking about NRL form, not what they did in Cup or not what they did in State of Origin and so forth, just what they did in NRL. So if you have a chance, jump on that. Just a first name and a number after them between 1 and 10. And I'm going to get the average scores across all my social media and share those when I do a review at the end of the season. Not much more I can say this week, guys. Other than the fact, I really hope the boys go out on a high. I hope they smash these Sharks, put a few questions in their mind. I've always felt like they're ladder imposters, so I think we can do them. We did them twice last year. That was where our season kicked off with that big turnaround win at Shark Park. Go get them, the Warriors. Last game for AFB, Jazz and SJ. Make it a big one. Thanks for sticking with me all season. It's been an up and down one, but to the Hardy fans who stuck with me, watched every episode, made comments every time, sent me DMs on other platforms. Appreciate you all, guys. I really appreciate you all. I'll put out a quick one next week with some thoughts about how the Sharks game went. And probably on the weekend of the bye, I'll put together a bit of a season wrap-up. Hopefully I'll get a couple of other guys on for a yarn. Let's go, boys. One more game. Up the mighty New Zealand Warriors. Still all in.